Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Veselina Galancheva. I'm a clinical fellow with the Department of Psychiatry at Children's Health Ireland and Crumlin, or formerly known as Our Lady's Children's Hospital. I work alongside Professor Fiona McNicholas, a professor and a consultant in child and adolescent psychiatry. This talk will focus on early parenting. I would like to use some notes and I will start sharing my screen in a few moments. So in this talk, we'll look into the definitions of parenting. We'll talk a little bit about the attachment theory, and we'll discuss what is the basis of good parenting and how to promote good behavior. There are many definitions of parenting. Parenting is probably best described as a lifelong journey and connection between parents and children. The goal of each parent is to raise an independent and successful young person. So it is important to remember that parenting is about establishing a connection and trustworthy relationship with the child. Why is this connection so important? A well-known theory among mental health professionals is the attachment theory. This theory evolved from the work of many researchers, but mostly John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth, and Mary Main. Bowlby describes attachment as a unique relationship between an infant and a caregiver that is the foundation for further healthy development, both physical and emotional. This connection is seen by Bowlby as an essential biological response. He also noted that parents' own experiences of being parented gets reactivated and influence the connection formed with their own children. In other words, how we were parented would impact our own parenting. So how does this work? The parent is the secure base, the mirror that reflects the child's inner world. When parents mirror or reflect the child's emotional behavior, they show understanding and communicate back to the child that they have the ability to cope with the child's emotions and provide for their needs. Affect mirroring by parents is crucial in the early development of emotional regulation and self-control. Infants don't have a concept of self. They need to see their image reflected by the parent. How well we understand and interpret emotions later on in life depends on whether our emotions were adequately understood by a caring and attentive adult. 22q deletion syndrome biologically predisposes to emotional regulation difficulties. Children with 22q deletion could struggle developing control over their emotions despite all the efforts the parents are making. They might have difficulties processing information coming through their senses, such as sound, touch, light, smell, or taste. Children with the deletion often struggle with their language abilities and abilities to communicate. Excuse me. The brain executive function skills such as working memory, processing speed, planning, and problem solving, all those might be impaired. Children could be very rigid and concrete in their thinking. All these factors are predisposed to poor frustration tolerance and behavioral difficulties. Forming the essential parent-infant connection as per the attachment theory could be challenged in the context of the 22q deletion syndrome. Parents have to deal with high level of stress and anxiety provoked by receiving a diagnosis for their child. The child may need actually, sorry, may need to spend time in hospital at different stages of life, and that would mean periods of separation from the family. Parents try to manage the impact on other members of the family and maintain family relationships. This could be a very difficult time, and please remember to look after yourself and seek support from your family, friends, or professionals if needed. Parenting is stressful, but it's also rewarding. It is a two-way process, and the more you give, the more you get back. Studies among parents of children with 22q deletion syndrome show that after the initial feelings of loss, grief, and guilt, after the initial feelings have settled, they come to an acceptance of the diagnosis and focus more on what their child is able to achieve rather than what the child is lacking. They find themselves being more empathetic and patient. In other words, parents also grow with the help of their children, and children with 22q deletion syndrome would be a great asset to the family. What we know is that no matter what difficulties a child might present with, there are some universal rules that can be applied. Children thrive better when there is security, structure, and stability around them. The parents need to be consistent and maintain firm boundaries, because children would pick up inconsistencies very quickly and learn how to use them in their favor. Children need to know what is expected from them, and it's important for the parent to model the behavior and do as they would have their child do. In other words, for example, if you would like your child to be kind to other children, they have to see you acting as a kind person. So maintaining a calm and positive attitude is really important. We can promote good behavior by giving attention to it and praising it without delay. When undesirable behavior is encountered, it's better to ignore it if it's safe to do so, of course. Even negative reaction could reinforce undesirable behavior. Also, avoid rewarding bad behavior. A simple example of rewarding bad behavior is when we have said no to something and then the child throws a tantrum. Quite often, to save ourselves the embarrassment or get some peace, we end up pleasing the child in the end. However, the child quickly learns that throwing a tantrum is a very powerful way of getting what you want. So make sure that you don't accidentally reward bad behavior. So as I said previously, do not let good behavior unnoticed. It is our human nature to focus on the negatives and criticize, but rewards are more powerful incentive than punishment. Use smiles, hugs, extra time to play a game together, for example, more often than material rewards. Be very specific when you praise your child. Name the behavior that you're praising. Use phrases like, I love the way you shared your toys with your friends, for example, rather than a general statement like, you were great with your friends today. If there is an undesirable behavior that needs to change, start working on one issue at a time. A frequently used method to manage or to analyze undesirable behavior, or even positive behavior, is the so-called ABC analysis. A stands for antecedent, or what happens before the behavior occurs. What are the triggers? This could be, for example, a behavior that occurs in a specific environment, certain social situations, topics, even words. B stands for the behavior itself, and C stands for consequences. Understanding the impact of the consequences is the most important part, as we need to be careful not to reinforce the behavior as previously mentioned. The ABC method is simple, but it takes time. It requires keeping a little diary and tracking the behavior. 3, 5, or even more recordings, if the behavior is more complex, might be needed before a pattern is seen. The ABC method could also be used for positive behavior in order to stimulate them and increase the frequency of the positive behavior. Change is possible, but it takes time. Set your expectations right, and be realistic, and always take it in the context of the overall development of the child, and their abilities in general. So keep an open eye for any additional behaviors that might arise and that you may want to work on. In the end, I would like to say a few more words about the tantrums, as they're very frequently observed in younger children. They are the child's way of expressing frustration or saying that they're unhappy about something. Parents need to be very mindful of how they handle such emotional outbursts. Children very quickly learn that tantrums could be used to achieve whatever they want and blackmail the parents, as I mentioned previously. There is only one way to manage this behavior properly, and it is about consistency and being assertive. Do not try to parent at the heat of the moment when your emotions are also heightened up. Remain calm and do not negotiate. If you need to remove yourself from the situation and get support from your partner, family member, that also could be helpful. It is crucial to handle these behaviors when the child is younger, because it will be almost impossible to deal with it later during adolescence, when the relationship between the parent and the child is at a different, more equal level. Children with 22q deletion syndrome, similarly to children with autism, can experience meltdowns. A meltdown is different from a tantrum. A meltdown occurs when the child is overloaded with stimulation, either sensory, social, verbal, or other. It is a way of escaping and shutting down. There is one big difference between a tantrum and a meltdown. The tantrum stops as soon as the wish is gratified. The recovery is very quick. The recovery from a meltdown, on the other hand, is slow. For example, your child might have a meltdown in the car after they're collected from school. They might start screaming, shouting, crying, and this is because they used up all their energy to behave in school and perform and handle the challenges. If a meltdown occurs, the best again is for the parent to remain calm, to validate the distress, acknowledge the distress, and help the child to switch off by engaging them in a calming activity of their interest. These are some books and websites that you may find helpful, and find extra resources and courses that you might be interested in. I would like to thank you for listening, and I really hope that you will find this talk helpful. If you would like to give us your feedback, this would be highly appreciated. Thank you for your interest.